What's up YouTube? It's the one and only Legend of Winning, aka Low, and I am back again with a video that I've been wanting to do for a very long time now. Now, after every season that is concluded with LeBron winning a championship, we have this conversation between who is better, LeBron James or Michael Jordan. And rightfully so. I do believe that both of these players have accomplished enough and are both great enough players to where they can be spoken within the same breath of one another. And even I participated in the conversation when I made my own comparison video between the two. If you haven't checked it out, please look at it. It's a pretty good video. However, over the past 3 to 4 months, a lot of people have been saying things that may be incorrect, or spreading misinformation, or just straight up lying to people and spreading myths. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to take some examples, some arguments that people have been stating over the past few months, put it to the test and see if it's actually true or not when it comes to comparing LeBron James or Michael Jordan. So in this video right here, all I'm going to do is spread facts. That's it. I'm not going to choose LeBron or Michael in this video. All I'm going to do is explain to you whether what somebody said is true or it's false or it's been miscued. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up. This is something that I can do more often if you do enjoy the video, so please let me know by leaving the like. Also, if you want to see more videos like this or just great NBA content, please subscribe to the channel. I upload 2 to 3 times a week. And finally, if you agree or disagree with me, always leave it in the comment section below. But with all that being said, let's get right into the video. So the first argument that I want to look at is the 31-year-old argument. This argument basically states that if you look at both of their accolades and you look at both of their numbers, LeBron is a better player. He has more accolades and his numbers are superior, thus coming to the conclusion that either LeBron is already better than Jordan or at least LeBron has the potential to be better than Jordan. So let's see if that's completely true. But before we do that, let me be completely clear about something. This argument at its core is completely skewed. Jordan played 10 years for a grand total of 684 games, and even out of the 10 years that we're referring to with Jordan, 2 of them were cut extremely short, one due to a fracture in his foot and the other one due to him coming out of retirement, compared to LeBron, who played 13 seasons and played a grand total of 987 games. So out of the gate, let's be completely clear about this. This argument at its core is completely skewed and it is to favor LeBron. However, we're still going to look at it to see if it holds any merit or any weight. And first, let's look at their accolades. Both of them won Rookie of the Year. Both of them have multiple All-Star appearances, and both of them actually were selected to All-Star appearances except for 1 year in their career at this point in time that we're referring to. So this is fairly even as well. And the same thing can go for their All-NBA selections. Again, Jordan has less than LeBron, but obviously he's supposed to because he's only played 10 years compared to LeBron's 13. But outside of those accolades, you start to realize where it may favor one way or another. When it comes to regular season MVPs, LeBron has 4 compared to Jordan's 3. Even though, yes, Jordan has played fewer seasons, even if you were to adjust LeBron's years and cut the last 3 seasons off, LeBron would still have more MVPs than Jordan. So this is completely fair, and LeBron is favoring Jordan when it comes to the MVP race. When it comes to championships, even though they both have 3, a lot of people use this argument. LeBron has gone to the finals 7 times compared to Jordan's 3. So even though, yes, it is a tie, because LeBron has more finals appearances, he should be given the nod, which I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but you know, it is what it is. However, when you look at everything else, it does favor Jordan. It does favor Jordan handsomely. When it comes to Defensive Player of the Year awards, LeBron has never won this and Jordan has won. Sticking with the defensive theme, LeBron and Jordan both have 6 all-defensive team selections, which shouldn't happen because, again, LeBron has played more seasons than Jordan. And also when it comes to LeBron, he has 5 all-defensive first teams and the 6th one is a second team. But when it comes to Jordan, all of his defensive team selections were first team. And also when it comes to leading the league in steals, Jordan was able to accomplish this 3 times, where LeBron has never been able to accomplish this. And also when it comes to scoring titles, LeBron did this only 1 time and Jordan accomplished this 7 times in a row. So actually, when you look at their full resume, you could come to the conclusion, if you want to be optimistic for LeBron, that it's quote-unquote tying, even though LeBron played 13 seasons where Jordan played 10. Honestly, myself, the way I look at it, At the age of 31, Jordan does have more accomplishments and accolades than LeBron. Again, even though LeBron does have 1 more MVP, and even though he does have 4 more finals appearances, Jordan has accomplished things that LeBron has never been able to accomplish. And to be completely honest with people, as time progresses, it doesn't really seem like LeBron will be able to accomplish them. So when it comes into the accolades, I will have to favor Jordan in this argument. Next, we're going to look at their numbers, and if anybody uses their total numbers, like their total points, total rebounds, assists, if anybody uses that, then you should immediately stop talking to that person, because again, they're using a very flawed and skewed way to compare these players. It's obvious that this argument is going to consistently favor LeBron because he's played more seasons and he played more games. However, the counter argument to the statement that I just said is normally along the lines of, well, how can you blame LeBron, or how can you discount LeBron's success if Jordan wasn't prepared to play basketball straight out of high school like LeBron was? And also, it's not LeBron's fault that Michael Jordan decided to retire in the middle of his career. Now, even though to a lesser degree I somewhat agree with this, and it is correct, you do have to understand you could practically select any player that made the jump from high school to pro, select a random age, and compare them to another player that went to college and then made their jump to the league. For example, at the age of 25, statistically speaking, Josh Smith is a better player than Dwayne Wade. At the age of 30, Dwight Howard is better than Patrick Ewing, and right now, Al Jefferson is better than Marc Gasol, and ironically, they are both 31 years of age. Now again, it's not Josh Smith's fault that Dwayne Wade decided he wanted to go to college. It's not Al Jefferson's fault that Marc Gasol decided to stay overseas, and how are we going to penalize Dwight Howard that he was able to take the jump from high school straight to the pros and Patrick Ewing wasn't? You see how irrational that sounds? It just doesn't make any sense. So again, if anybody decides to use total numbers instead of averages, completely disregard their argument because they just don't know what they're talking about. However, we are going to look at averages here because that just makes sense in my opinion. So when we look at the averages, Michael averages more points, he averages more blocks, more steals, he shoots better from the field, and he shoots better from the free throw line. When it comes to turnovers, I'm going to completely put that aside because even though, yes, LeBron averages more turnovers, he does get more assists and he obviously passes the ball more. And on the other side of LeBron averages more rebounds, he averages more assists, and he shoots better from the three-point line. So yeah, Michael is obviously statistically better. But here's the thing that really stands out to me when it comes to looking at their statistics. The thing about LeBron and the base of the argument that people consistently use with LeBron is such a great, well-rounded player. The reason why he is the greatest player of all time, or potentially could be the greatest player of all time, is because he fills up the stat sheet in every statistical category, which is correct. Obviously, he fills up in points, rebounds, assists, and we've seen this multiple times over and over again. However, when you look at these numbers further, Michael averages 5 more points, he averages a little bit more blocks, he averages 1 more steal, he shoots better from the field, and he shoots 10% better from the free throw line. And you're telling me that you believe that LeBron is better because he only averages 1 more rebound and 1 more assist? Yeah, that really doesn't make any sense. The reality of it all is not only is LeBron a well-rounded player, but so is Michael. So when it comes to the 31-year-old argument that is consistently used to favor LeBron, it is completely a myth. When it comes to the accolades, at best we can say that it's tied, but if you want to be completely unbiased, you have to see that the argument when it comes to accolades obviously favor Michael. And when it comes to their actual numbers and when they're averaging out, Michael is a better player. So at the age of 31, Michael still is indeed better than LeBron. The next argument that we're going to bring forward is the help argument. Now, this argument basically states that one player had more help than the other player, which is why that player had more success than the other one, or at least explains for the success of the other one. And if that player didn't have the amount of help that he received, then odds are he wouldn't have the same amount of success. Now, let me be completely clear before we even get into this argument. It is completely a myth because both players had help. And to be realistic with people, there is not one player in NBA history who has won multiple championships who played with nobody else. Everybody at some point who has multiple championships not only played with talented players around them, but played with Hall of Fame level talent that was surrounding them. Everybody from LeBron to Michael to Magic to Bill Russell. So this whole idea or this concept that a player was able to accomplish anything significant by himself, is completely inaccurate. However, in this argument, it does seem like people tend to favor Jordan more than LeBron, especially because LeBron famously left Cleveland to go play with help. So it is widely known that LeBron at some point in his career had a significant amount of help. However, when it comes to Michael Jordan, it does come across that the amount of help that he received throughout his entire career is a bit ambiguous, to say the least. And a lot of people consistently state that he received less help than LeBron James. So let's see if that is accurate. So first, let's look at the talent that Michael Jordan played with on the court. First, you have Scottie Pippen, and then you have Dennis Rodman. Now, these are two of the more common known players that Michael played with, the great Hall of Fame talent, because indeed, both of them are in the Hall of Fame. And I think a lot of people who even favor Michael in this conversation, they won't deny how great of a player both of those individuals were in the 90s. However, when it comes to the talented players that Michael Jordan played with, there are still some players that people tend to overlook. The first three-peat, they had B.J. Armstrong and Horace Grant along with Scottie Pippen. Both of these players are consistently overlooked, and to be completely honest with you, I don't know why. Especially after Michael retired, those two players along with Scottie Pippen were able to consistently win games and actually went from a 57-win team when Michael was there, and then after he left was a 55-win team. Also, the first year after Michael retired, both of those players were selected to be All-Stars. Another two players that a lot of people overlook is Tony Kukoc and Ron Harper. Now, if you lived in the 90s, or at least you watched Jordan play, I'm pretty sure you know the relevancy of those two players, especially Tony Kukoc. I mean, Tony Kukoc did win Sixth Man of the Year during the late 90s during that second three-peat, and people tend to forget about Ron Harper. Ron Harper, before he joined the Chicago Bulls, was averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists along with 2 steals. Yeah, that's a pretty solid player that's now on that team. So now you're talking about a team that had a point guard that had the potential to average 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, a small forward in Scottie Pippen that was borderline MVP level once Michael left, a power forward in Dennis Rodman, and then a 6th Man of the Year award candidate in Tony Kukoc along with Michael Jordan. Yeah, it makes sense why they won 72 games that season, and you could probably make a legitimate argument that was a super team. Now, the argument that is going to be stated after me saying what I just said is, well, if you look at their numbers while they were on the team with Michael, their numbers actually went down. So that's the reason why they weren't on a quote-unquote super team. Obviously, you just didn't watch the 90s basketball. When the reality is, the reason why their numbers went down is because they needed to fit in a system that best suited Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in a triangle offense. So even though you might believe that, to make it seem like Michael Jordan was playing with nobodies on the court is completely inaccurate and completely false. But wait, it doesn't stop there, because Michael Jordan received even more help in the 90s. When you look at some great players such as DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis, the reason why they don't receive the recognition that they rightfully deserve is not necessarily because of the lack of skills or talent that they possess, it's simply because they play for a terrible organization. When it comes to LeBron James, his first 7 years in the NBA, he played for a terrible organization. Cleveland for multiple years basically wasted his talent without bringing anybody on that team. The best acquisition that the Cleveland Cavaliers made the first 7 years that LeBron was on that team was either Mo Williams, Antoine Jameson, who was out of his prime, and Shaquille O'Neal, who not only was out of his prime but out of shape as well. And then after that, LeBron went to Miami, which again, when it comes to Miami management, even though I do believe they're way better than Cleveland, they really didn't piece anything together. That entire team that was brought to Miami was built by the players, not by organization and management. And then going back to Cleveland, even though Dan Gilbert claims that he made the decision to trade Andrew Wiggins to get Kevin Love, let's just be completely honest with you. LeBron did that, not Dan Gilbert, not at all. Then on the flip side, when you look at Michael played for a pretty solid organization. People tend to forget not only did they convince Dennis Rodman and Ron Harper to join the team, but also in the late 80s to early 90s, they made a lot of draft picks that ended up paying off for Michael Jordan in the long haul. Not only did they draft Horace Grant in the 1987 draft for the number 10 pick, in the 1987 draft as well, they made trades to get Scottie from the Sonics, and then later on they made trades with the Sonics again to get a draft pick back from them to receive B.J. Armstrong later on down the line. And then in 1990 they drafted the rights to Tony Kukoc, who again, like I stated earlier, we obviously know his value to the team. When it comes to LeBron, the best player that they drafted in the first 7 years that LeBron was there was J.J. Hickson. But hey, even if you don't want to agree with that, There's nothing that you can deny when it comes to coaching, because again, when we talk about help, we're not just talking about the players that are on the court, we're not just talking about the management that is behind the team, but we're also talking about the coach that is on the sideline that is enabling a style of play that makes it easier for a specific player to win. Tim Duncan would not be as great as he is if he didn't play for the San Antonio Spurs and was coached by Greg Popovich. When you talk about Michael Jordan, he was coached by one of the greatest coaches of all time in Phil Jackson. On the other hand, LeBron James was coached by Eric Spoelstra and Mike Brown. Tyronn Lue, David Blatt, but nobody really special. Again, Eric Spoelstra is a solid coach, but he ain't no Phil Jackson. So when we talk about help, when we talk about which player received more help, and claiming that Michael Jordan received less help, borderline to no help at all, that is completely a myth, and I just busted it. And finally, people, we're going to look at their accolades in the postseason, their accomplishments in the postseason, and compare them as well, because this is an argument that is quite consistently used against both of them. On one hand, you have the perfect 6-for-6 argument. This argument basically states that LeBron James has no possible way of being better than Jordan because Jordan is 6-for-6 in the finals. Not only is he 6-for-6 in the finals, but he never even allowed a series to reach Game 7, something that LeBron can say that he's never been able to do and never been able to accomplish, and probably will never be able to accomplish, especially since he's already lost in the finals. And on the other hand, you have the argument that LeBron James going to the finals 7 times, 6 times in a row, should be valued more than Michael just going to the finals 6 times. How are we going to discount LeBron's success simply because he went to the finals more times than Michael? Regardless if it's win, lose, or draw, there should be some recognition for what LeBron has been able to accomplish within the 13 years that he's been into the NBA. And to be completely honest with you, I agree with both of them. And actually, both of them are facts. Neither one of them are myths. Neither one of them are fabrications. Both of them are completely true. However, I know that's not what you want to hear, so let me break it down further for you. The reason why people don't like the 6-for-6 argument is simply because if you look further into it and you give details to the context that we're talking about, Michael Jordan is playing up against weaker competition in the finals. If you look at the teams that LeBron went up against in the finals, the San Antonio Spurs twice and Golden State Warriors twice as well. One of the Golden State Warriors team, which was just last year, broke the record for the most single season wins in NBA history. Then you start to realize that, yeah, LeBron went up against tougher competition, which then gives a reason to why LeBron loses to the finals. There's absolutely no way in this world that LeBron was going to be able to take that Cleveland Cavaliers team and beat the San Antonio Spurs. There's no way in this world that he was going to be able to beat the Golden State Warriors without Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. Come on, people. So again, if you put context and details to the conversation, then you thoroughly have an understanding why LeBron loses to the finals compared to why Michael loses to the finals, which is why the 6-for-6 argument is a bit flawed. Again, it's fact, but if you don't use the details and context that is available to everybody to use in the conversation, then you are completely misrepresenting what's going on between these two players. However, the same thing can be said about the other side of the argument, which is why I'm so frustrated when this argument is being brought up, and why I'm so disappointed in Colin Cowherd, because I thought he was better than that. I actually had him at a higher standing than Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith on First Take, but apparently I'm wrong. The reason why I say this is because if you actually know your NBA history, then you know for a fact what Colin Cowherd says in those clips are completely incorrect.
To know that MJ broke into the NBA in '84, he was Rookie of the Year, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs. The next year, broke his leg. They were swept in the playoffs. He's back the next year. They were swept in the playoffs. The next year, they lose in the semis. The next year, they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals. The next year, they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals. It's almost like people have amnesia. Michael Jordan struggled to get out of the first round. In the first 3 years he was getting to the first round, they had losing records. LeBron comes in Rookie of the Year, no playoffs first year, no playoffs second year. But they had a winning record. The East was very good.
So real quick, one, I don't even understand why the entire team's record is the burden of one player, but hey, that's what he's making the argument based off of. Two, the reason why this argument is completely misguided is because if LeBron James had the exact same record that Michael Jordan had, then they would have made the playoffs. The truth of the matter is both Chicago and Cleveland were under 500 in both players' rookie seasons. Also, not only that, when Colin Cowherd makes the statement that LeBron came into the NBA with nobody on the team compared to Jordan, again, that is completely incorrect, and it just frustrates me because you were there. Like you saw, we all saw, like we know LeBron came into the NBA with Ilgauskas, who was averaging 15 points, 8.5 rebounds with 2.5 blocks, and also came in the NBA with Carlos Boozer, who was averaging 15 points, 11 rebounds, shooting over 50% from the field. So to claim that those two players were nobodies, come on, Colin Cowherd. I thought you were better than that. Come on, man. Let's just be honest. This is have a truthful conversation. But also, the biggest thing that really bothers me about this conversation about what LeBron did compared to Michael did in the playoffs, which is, again, when LeBron loses to the San Antonio Spurs or the Golden State Warriors or the Boston Celtics in the playoffs or the Detroit Pistons in the playoffs or the Orlando Magic, the Dallas Mavericks, all of those are reasonable losses. They are excusable losses, and a lot of people expunge those losses off of his records. However, if you go back and you look at who Michael was losing to in the playoffs, you should also be able to look at those losses and be very understanding, the same way that you're with LeBron and how understanding you are with his losses, and should be able to expunge that off his record. However, the way that Colin Cowherd displays the argument, it's almost as if like Michael was just losing to some random teams in the playoffs. So let me give you the facts. The first year that Michael Jordan went into the playoffs, he lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. That season, the Milwaukee Bucks won 59 games, a borderline 60-win team. The next 2 years, he lost to the Boston Celtics. Both years, the Boston Celtics were the first seed in the East, and both years, the Boston Celtics went on to win the championship. The next 3 years, he lost to the Detroit Pistons. All 3 years, the Detroit Pistons went to the finals, and 2 of the 3 years, the Detroit Pistons won the championship. And they would have won it the other year as well. However, Isaiah Thomas was hurt in Game 7 and wasn't able to play, but they still took the Los Angeles Lakers to 7 games. That's the truth. So again, if it's acceptable for LeBron to lose the teams that he lost to, how is it not acceptable for Michael to lose to the teams that he lost to? Michael lost to literally some of the greatest teams, not just in the 80s, not just in the past 20, 30 years, but in NBA history. He literally lost to some of the best teams in NBA history. So again, the lack of details is just completely annoying on both ends of the arguments. However, let me know what you think about this whole thing. Do you feel that LeBron is better than Michael because of some arbitrary reason? Do you feel like Michael is by far better than LeBron? If you want to know my feelings on the debate, I already made a video. You can go check that out as well. It's a pretty lengthy video. Hopefully this video isn't that lengthy, but I'll try to do my best when it comes to editing. And finally, I want to leave you on this. When it comes to both LeBron and Michael, both of these players are just great, phenomenal individuals. There is no need for anybody, not me, not you, not Colin Cowherd, not Skip Bayless, not anybody in the media, to exaggerate their accomplishments, their statistical feats, or anything else in between. They are players that can stand on their own merit, their own accomplishments. They don't need anybody else to embellish them at all. So because of that, just look at the facts and do your own research, and please come to a conclusion that makes sense. With all that being said, I will see y'all later. Peace.